Women should remain silent in the churches. They are not allowed to speak, but must be in submission, as the law says. If they want to inquire about something, they should ask their own husbands at home. For it is disgraceful for a woman to speak in the church.
Samuel said to Saul, I am the one the Lord sent to anoint you king over his people Israel. So listen now to the message from the Lord. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I will punish the Amalekites.
Jésus, par ton sang précieux, enlève mon iniquité. Regarde-moi sur les cieux, dis-moi que tu m'as pardonné. J'ai longtemps erré cœur rebelle, mais j'entends ta voix qui m'appelle. Au pied de ta croix maintenant, tout confus, brisé, je me rends. Blanc, blanc, plus blanc que neige, blanc, plus blanc que neige, lavé dans le sang de l'agneau, je serai plus blanc que la neige.
Now go, attack the Amalekites, and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. 1 Samuel 15.
Greetings, brothers and sisters, and welcome to this 27th edition of God is Not White. My name is Jafri Kaiti, and it is my privilege, my honor, my pleasure to be with you for this evening's program. A program that we started on December the 25th, 2024. And it has been truly a very, very rewarding experience for us since we begun this conversation around the relationship that people of African descent have negotiated or nurtured, whichever verb you consider to be most appropriate, with Judeo-Christianity, in particular with the Abrahamic faiths or beliefs in general. Now, I greet you from Ottawa, Gatineau, the capital of Canada. This is where my base is. But as I've mentioned several times in the previous episodes, I was born and raised in Haiti. And oftentimes you will see that I refer to this grounding, this experience. That's where I was introduced to the concepts of Judeo-Christianity, being the son and grandson of Episcopalian priest. Now, we've covered a number of topics over the past few months, and this evening our presentation will be really much shorter. We will really focus our attention on one particular article that attracted my attention earlier this week, and I think it might be something worth going over methodically to discuss the content of that public release. Now, the title of the presentation tonight is "We Must Address Reality and Leave Imaginary Friends or Foes, Gods or Devils Alone." Again, it's a theme that we've addressed several times in our speeches and presentations, but what inspired us to use this title this evening is what is happening in the United States this week, in particular in the state of Texas, where there are deadly floods, and really we send our condolences to the families of those who are affected by these floods, and the survivors, sending them all kinds of positive vibrations as they get up and use human solidarity to bring back life that is enjoyable for men, women, and children. Now, while this is happening, as you know, whenever there is human tragedy, whether it is with floods or earthquakes or whatever it is, you have everything that you have in humanity that shows up and gets enhanced, the good and the bad. The people who show up and sacrifice whatever they have in order to help others in those moments of needs. But you also have statements, declarations, comments that could be kept unuttered or silenced instead. But um, it is all the more distressing when it comes from someone in a position of authority. And again, this happened this week when we see here quoted on July the 5th, the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, um, you know, uh, crediting prayers to the fact that the rising of the waters stopped, and calling for more prayers for the people of Texas, when some of the people replied and said, listen, we are in crisis. We expect the governor, the government, to actually mobilize resources to come to the rescue of those in need, not to mobilize prayers. In any case, this is the main element that triggered a number of responses. And in fact, I will be sharing with you a particular response um, from the FFRF. And I believe this is a very important message, and we will go over their statement and see why these types of pronouncements um, are repetitive. This is not the first time, and unfortunately, it is probably not the last time we're going to experience this. And so, the purpose of this conversation is to see how can we use this as lessons learned, like an experience, so that we don't uh, keep on repeating the same over and over again. Yes. So the Freedom from Religion Foundation condemns Abbott's call for prayer after Texas floods disaster, urges investment in science, is the title of the article, which you can find on the organization's website. And it reads as follows. Let me just verify that everything is okay with our sound. Let me check with some of the folks that are already online. Okay, it seems like everything is okay with our sound. Please comment if you find that there is anything that is not correct with our sound. And again, if it is at all possible, we will reserve some time for your comments at the end of this brief presentation. So now let's go to the text. The Freedom from Religion Foundation is strongly criticizing Texas Governor Greg Abbott for issuing yet another hollow day of prayer proclamation and for making insensitive remarks following the devastating flooding that claimed dozens of lives in central Texas. In a formal letter sent to Abbott today, FFRF criticizes the governor for using a natural disaster to promote religion instead of taking measures, science-based steps to address science-based steps to address future crises. Your prayer proclamation does nothing to help those currently suffering or prevent similar devastation in the future, the letter states. As governor, you have many tools to actually help prepare for weather-related disasters, and you should use these tools rather than using your office and state resources to promote your personal religious beliefs. Over 100 people, including 27 children, most of them in Kerr County, have died in the flooding. Many were attending a Christian girls' camp along the Guadalupe River when the flood waters surged. Instead of focusing on tangible actions or solutions, Abbott used his press conference to praise his own response, thank President Trump, and encourage prayer. Prayer matters. Prayers could have been the reason why water stopped rising, he insisted. Those prayers are answered in so many ways. All we know is that prayer does work. Your prayers have made a difference. We thank God Almighty. God has blessed Texas and will continue to bless our great state. End of citation. Abbott also issued an official proclamation declaring Sunday, July 6, as a statewide day of prayer, asking Texans to turn to God for comfort, healing, and strength. It states, and I quote, I urge every Texan to join me in prayer this Sunday for the lives lost, for those still missing, for the recovery of our communities, and for the safety of those on the front lines. The proclamation addressed to Texans of all faiths and religious traditions and backgrounds pointedly ignores the 26% of state residents who identify as non religious, atheist, agnostic, or nothing in particular. Responds Annie Laurie Gaylor, FFRF co president. Abbott's statements are part of the God always gets the credit, never the blame phenomenon. She adds, if God was watching out, why did he, or she, I would suppose, allow the Guadalupe River to rise 20 feet over a couple of hours in the first place? Why did this all powerful, all seeing deity allow 27 campers and counselors at a Christian camp to be tragically swept away? Abbott can't have it both ways. End of quote. FRF, FFRF's letter reminds Abbott of his constitutional obligations, stating, you have taken an oath to uphold and defend the U.S. Constitution, an entirely godless and secular document, and are charged with great responsibility over citizens, including those who may not share your personal religious viewpoints. It concludes, leaving religion as a private matter for private citizens is the wisest public policy. Observing a strict separation of church and state offends no one and honors the First Amendment. End of quote. FFRF is also deeply concerned that the Trump administration is echoing this misplaced reliance on prayer. Sorry. On July the 6th, the official White House X account posted, "The White House Faith Office asks you to join us in prayer for the precious lives lost in the Texas floods. Amidst this tragedy, our nation must come together to pray for the victims, the families, and the first responders conducting rescue missions to find those still missing. May God wrap his loving arms around all those in Texas." The message was accompanied by a Bible verse, Psalm 34, verse 18. "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit." FFRF points out that while Americans are free to pray in if they choose, it is not the role of the government, including the White House, to issue religious calls to action on behalf of the entire nation. In times of crisis, Americans deserve policy, preparedness, and science, not scripture. Gaylor adds that the focus on prayer distracts from real questions about public safety and preparedness, such as whether vacancies at the National Weather Service contributed to the scale of the disaster. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer has called for an investigation by the Commerce Department's Inspector General. As the New York Times reports, key positions at local offices of the National Weather Service were unfilled. The National Weather Service's San Angelo office, which is responsible for some of the areas hit hardest by Friday's flooding, was missing a senior hydrologist, staff forecaster, and meteorologist in charge, according to Tom Fahey, the legislative director for the National Weather Service Employees Organization, the union that represents weather service workers, according to the Times. The San Antonio office also had significant vacancies, including individuals who work with local emergency managers on flooding planning, warnings, and evacuation. The warning coordination meteorologist took the early retirement package used by the Trump administration to reduce the number of federal employees, the Times reports. At both offices, the vacancies rate doubled after Trump took office. The Freedom from Religion Foundation points to the role of white evangelical Christians, 80% of whom voted for Trump, in enabling a political climate that continues to undermine climate science and emergency preparedness. Last week, Trump called to zero out all climate research at NOAA. Although white evangelical Christians are also the most skeptical of human made climate change, a third accept the science. Without crucial research, science, climate change mitigation, or even proper alert systems, these weather related tragedies will continue and multiply, kill more Americans, and wreak destruction, Gaylor warned. The Freedom from Religion Foundation is a national nonprofit organization with over 42,000 members nationwide, including 1,800 members and a local chapter in Texas. FFRF's purposes are to protect the constitutional principle of separation between church and state and to educate the public on matters related to non theism. So, this is the statement. I had never heard of the organization before, Freedom from Religion Foundation. It's just that I found that the letter or the statement was compelling and appropriate for us for discussion tonight. Now, This flooding, we're talking about a number of casualties, over 100. But if we take a quick look at the most recent information that is published on the matter, let's look at NBC News to see what they say um, in terms of the updates. It's really not looking good. So Texas flooding, death toll rises to 119, including Camp Mystic children after flash floods. And again, the Mystic children that was mentioned in the article, this is a Christian camp. But again, with all of these statements that are being made, all of this now becomes part of the conversation. When in reality, you have uh, families of these children who are currently in dire need for psychological support and comfort. At least 173 people are still considered missing. So it's really not a good picture in terms of what is happening. But what's also making the situation worse is all this focus on trying to identify people to blame or entities, imaginary entities, God, devil, etc., to blame, when in fact there is plenty of real work that ought to be the focus at the moment. Now, this is not um, a new happening or a new phenomenon. I will now share with you this picture. It's an old picture of Donald Trump with Pat Robertson, but I really wanted to just share with you what Pat Robertson was saying um, 15 years ago when a massive earthquake hit Haiti on the 12th of January 2010, killing over 200,000 people in a matter of minutes. Okay. And this was the response from this guy who runs a sect called the 100 Club or whatever. Um, Haitians made a pact with the devil to be freed from their French colonizers in the 18th century. So, as far as Reverend Pat Robertson is concerned, the fault is not in the ground. Play on words here. It is in the Haitians. Okay. Now, this was years before the famous "they're eating the ducks, the dogs, and the cats" by Donald Trump here. Birds of the same feather kind of flock together. Uh, there's plenty of distressful comments being made by people who should be moderately educated uh, when these disasters are happening. And, when Pat Robertson issued these ridiculous and stupid, retarded statements, uh, many people say, well, there's a tint of racism in there as well, right? Because he's referring to um, a revolution that Black people, enslaved Africans, conducted against their white oppressors. But as you can see, it's not just a racial situation. It's just that when you have a stupidity being uttered in public discourse like that by people who have thousands of people who are following them, it becomes dangerous because this is happening at a time when intelligence, is what you're seeking. So I will um, share the minute of Pat Robertson actually saying this on national television, just to refresh your memory on the context and to also hear some of the ideas that were behind that ridiculous and racist statement. It's not one or the other. It was both ridiculous and racist. And let me now share this with you here. Um, okay, it's only a minute and 15 seconds, so we can bear um, the uh, uh, the pain that it will no doubt cause. Okay, let me just make sure that my sound is good. Um, I'm a little bit worried here. I don't know if our listeners can give me a sign here that everything is okay with regards to the sound. I think yeah. So Marina Dean is saying we're okay. I think. Let's hear Pat Robertson.
And you know, Christy, something happened a long time ago in Haiti, and people may not want to talk about it. They were under the heel of the French, uh, Napoleon the Third and whatever. And they got together and swore a pact to the devil. They said, "We will serve you if you'll get us free from the French." It's a true story. And so the devil said, "Okay, it's a deal." And they kicked the French out. The Haitians revolted and got themselves free. But ever since, they have been cursed by one thing after the other, desperately poor. That island of Hispaniola is one island. It's cut down the middle. On the one side is Haiti, on the other side is the Dominican Republic. Yeah. Dominican Republic is prosperous, healthy, full of resorts, etc. Haiti.
So it is important to pause here with this comparison with Dominican Republic. First of all, the island's name is not Hispaniola. Okay, that's what the Spanish thieves wanted to call it. Okay, but there were people there, as you know, before the Spanish were there, and they had called their island by several names, one of them being Haiti, another one being Boyo. But when the Africans revolted on the island and kicked out the armies of France, Spain, and England, they took back the name that the original people gave the island, which is Haiti. So the whole island's name is Haiti. Of course, white supremacist forces having managed to reconquer two-thirds on the east, they prefer to use the Western white supremacist word Hispaniola, Little Spain. Spain is in Eurasia. There's no Spain in the Caribbean island, okay? The island's name is Haiti. And those who liberated it from the white supremacist murderers renamed it in honor of the decimated population that was there before the arrival of the barbarians. And so when Pat Robertson is issuing his racist statements there, he's also doing this because the United States, Europe, Canada, they've all organized themselves to organize a, a neo colony on the eastern side that they're calling Dominican Republic, where it's a paradise for white pedophiles. Okay, people who want to go have sex with impoverished Dominicans. Uh, that's to them, that's progress. But any given time of the year, what you see happening on the island of Haiti, whether it is on the eastern side, Dominican Republic, or on the western side, which is Haiti, is black people, impoverished black people who are trying to find life on this earth and who have to get on boats, and they're going to Puerto Rico, they're going to the Bahamas, they're going to the on their way to the United States. And that's why now you have a crisis where, whereas on the Dominican Republic side, they are persecuting black Haitians. Well, Dominicans who are seeking refuge in Puerto Rico are also being chased from Puerto Rico with the same disdain and racism, anti-blackness that they practice on the island against the Black Haitians. In other words, we have not made much progress, brothers and sisters, and there's much work left to be done. Let's hear some more of that Pat Robertson nonsense.
He is in desperate poverty. Same island. Sure. Uh, they need to have, and we need to pray for them, a great turning to God. Yeah. And out of this tragedy, I'm optimistic something good may come.
So, as you can understand here, Pat Robertson is crediting the freeing of the African men, women, and children on the island to a pact with the devil. So, this means then the devil was on the good side. It's God who wanted racial slavery. Okay, and the devil um, uh, was in agreement with the Africans that racial slavery is evil and it must end. I mean, of course, this is stupidity, but that's the kind of logic, crooked logic, that these deranged people have in their minds. Of course, this fool passed away 2023, but his organization, the 700 Club, whatever, is still there. And unfortunately, there are plenty of Black people who are contributing to this thing and participating in it and issuing as stupid and as racist statements as Pat Robertson used to utter. And that's another thing we need to um, spend a few minutes talking about. When people engage in these anti-scientific, racist, sexist, ethnocentric type of ideology, it doesn't matter what they look like because it's the indoctrination that makes the difference. And so you have a lot of self-hating people of African descent who are, keeping these ridiculous notions alive. And so plenty of work left for all of us, brothers and sisters. Now, in the preparation for the program tonight, um, yes, I wanted to share with you that it is neither God or the devil's hands in the July 2025 Texas floods. And when Gudu Gudu, which is how we call the earthquake that hit Haiti on January 12, 2010, strike, uh, we did not need Pat Robertson to also strike Haitians. uh, one tragedy was something that occupied much of our energies, and we don't need added grief from racist, idiotic folks like Pat Robertson. However, the point I wanted to conclude on here is what science education can help us achieve. Because indeed, there is a cost when a society allows ridiculous superstitions to take over the discourse, even on national television, etc., to the point where governors of a state are issuing those statements. Uh, there's a cost because people emulate, people repeat, and the society does not do what it needs to do in practical terms to deal with the disaster and take steps to prevent further disasters in the future. And that's what the folks from the FFRF have mentioned again and again, that we are living in a period where climate change is a reality. Now, I did not even spend the time to go with you over the many uh, conspiracy theories that accompany this latest set of floods. Yes, if you go on Google and you type Texas floods conspiracies, I kid you not, you are going to find enough to occupy, to keep you busy for quite a while. I'll just do the exercise with you just for a brief minute, just to illustrate, because even myself, I did not expect that it would be such a massive set of conspiracies that exist of all kinds. So, for instance, here, the first set is about something called cloud seeding. So, apparently, there are people who consider that there are experiments being made, and so this is not a natural occurrence, and that it's the government. And there seems to be more people on the right or right wing folks who are spreading those conspiracies, the far right conspiracy theories spread online, how to spot weather misinformation, cloud seeding theories, after the deadly Hill County floods, a second storm hit, and they're talking about misinformation, etc. So, plenty of these things are out there, and part of it um, has to do with the way in the last few years, to be honest, because I worked in the scientific community for several decades, and I can tell you that indeed during the COVID crisis, yeah, there were scientists who sinned in the way that they were pushing ideas, uh, just like the religious proselytizers. And so this has as an impact to erode, okay, the trust that people used to naturally put in scientists. And many of us warned that this danger was real. In any case, uh, you hear meet the men conspiracy theories have blame for Texas biblical floods. Like even the terms that they're using, like what's a biblical flood? Okay, uh, so these things are problematic because um, uh, they won't go away because when people don't trust their governments, when people don't trust their scientists, well, any kind of craziness can happen. And I'm not saying that people should, offer blind faith to either the government or the scientists. But what I mean is the investment in science education can first help us um, avoid creating climate crisis because of the way we are mistreating our environment, but it can also help us give rational interpretation when crisis occurs so that we can focus on human solidarity as opposed to all of this nonsense that is all over the net right now, because this is counterproductive. I'll give an example of what I consider to be um, a rational response to um, um, you know to the challenge of nature getting I don't want to use the term angry again because people might start taking this kind of language seriously, like nature is not completely under our control, and thank goodness it's not, because we tend to mess up everything that we touch. But every now and again when there is a storm, when there are floods, we need to do what is necessary to save human lives and et cetera, to save our crops, to save our infrastructure. That's important, to save the animals and etc. Um, and that's the purpose of great science and engineering. And here is one example here. I had the honor and uh, pleasure and privilege to visit this facility in Tokyo, and I can tell you it is impressive. Okay, the city of Tokyo, when I visited back in 2013 for the first time, it was said to inhabit 20 million people. Um, and of course, Tokyo has this regular floods and earthquakes, etc. Well, this massive facility that I visited back in 2013 with a group of scientists and engineers is something that I will never forget. What I understand is that the city of Tokyo has several rivers around it, and when they overflow, um, that can strike disaster for the 20 million people of the time that lived there. And so, what did the Japanese did? No, it's not more prayers. Massive Tokyo flood protection system might not be big enough. Now, this was published a few years back, okay? And massive indeed it is. Okay, you have to see it to believe it. You can just look at the scale here. This is all underground. Okay, if you see in the picture. So this article from 2016 says 5 giant cisterns, 500-ton columns, and more than 6.5 kilometers of cavernous tunnels all lie below the world's largest metropolis, Tokyo, one of the densest cities on the planet, is home to one of the most ambitious and enormous flood control systems ever created. And it is almost entirely invisible, indeed, to Tokyo residents. It's amazing. Okay. I mean, unless they take you, they drive you there, and there are special times when you can visit part of it, and it's just totally impressive. Lots of security as well, of course. Two massive construction projects protect Japan's capital from the ever-present threat of floods. The first project, known as the Metropolitan Area Outer Underground Discharge Tunnel, or more simply as the GCANS project, was completed in 2009. A network of 3.3-kilometer tunnels called the Furukawa Reservoir will be in place later this year. Actually, it was in place, yeah. Tokyo's full flood control system is an engineering marvel and a global trailblazer in dealing with water in rapidly expanding urban areas. It is a leadership position the East Asian nation earned through hard experience. Yes, they had disasters. Floods in 1910 destroyed 4.3% of the nation's GDP, and plenty of floods that they had known. Now, if you look at the GCANS project that I'm telling you about here, it was commissioned in 1992. Construction began on the world's largest drain in 1993. The concept was relatively simple. The plan connected existing rivers, okay, the rivers that go around the city, and waterways to overflow pipes and drains. This allowed the above ground drainage system in central Tokyo to continue in operation while its overall capacity was massively expanded underground. So you take the water from above, you bring it underground, and you channel it based on where there is, more need, so that the water, in other words, you're creating rivers under the earth, but deep under the earth and under human control, so that you can control the level of the water that is still above ground. Okay. The underground system was composed of 5 giant cisterns that collected excess water from rivers and waterways. Each cylindrical shaft measures about 70 meters in height and 30 meters in diameter, spacious enough to spark a space shuttle. Okay. And you can look here, how around the city all of this is happening. And what is written there is true. You could be going through the city of these 20 million people and never suspect that all of this activity is happening underground, or that this big facility, which is about a good maybe 45 minutes outside of the city of Tokyo, right? This is huge, amazing, right? Now, this is not prayers. This is science. And this is not, rocket science, but it is engineering, and it is practical response to a practical challenge. Okay. So, um, Japan did not do this because the Japanese are super people. They did this because that's what they need. That's their challenge. The reality is, most of the nations facing the impact of climate change do not have the financial resources to build such tunnels and infrastructure for their people alone. They don't have these means. However, if we were living in a just world, rather than having these crazy men with extra testosterone going around and dropping bombs that cost billions of dollars, millions of dollars, or on the heads of innocent men, women, and children all around the world. If we were putting our resources together in the Caribbean, we could have a system to collectively protect the islands that are facing the threat of rising sea levels, right? On the continent of Africa, a continent that was attacked by criminals, who left Europe to go and take what doesn't belong to them. Many countries that are at the coast cannot afford those systems. But collectively, as a human family, we certainly can afford this. You could have, American engineers working with Nigerian engineers, working with Bajan, Jamaican, Haitian engineers, working with Canadian engineers, Chinese engineers, Japanese engineers, to bring practical solutions to the problems that we face, whether it is the problems of flooding, whether it is the problem of securing food for all the people of the world. But we don't achieve these things not because we don't have the capacity, but because we have not mobilized the required wisdom to get it done. And thankfully, there are men and women who make it their work to focus on doing exactly that. And so we applaud them, we honor them, and we are thankful for their work. And so I will stop here and ask if you are interested in joining in the conversation to dial um, 613-482 um, 2549. Yes, and I will be happy to entertain your call. And of course, in order to do that, I have to make sure that my WhatsApp is activated, which is exactly what I am doing just about now. Okay, so if you are so inclined, do not hesitate to call me at this number and make your comment with regards to the topic that we've covered tonight. Again, we started the conversation with what's happening in Texas and hoping that more and more people will rise up to show solidarity with the people of Texas and bring consolation to the families who have lost their children, including those young girls who were at Camp Mystique. And we are calling on people like the governor to stop making those empty calls about, more prayers, etc. When you've been elected to bring practical responses to the people. And whether it is in the United States, in Haiti, in Canada, in Africa, um, you know, the people deserve to have politicians who bring practical answers to their problems. Not like this fool in Haiti who was named, one of 9 presidents, and brought a statue of Notre Dame du Perpétuel Secours, as the thing that's going to help Haiti. No, we don't need statues and stuff like that. Okay. um, uh, some fun memories. That was back in 2013. The bullet trains in Tokyo. uh, Such impressive machines. The speed with which those machines can take you from one city to another is absolutely amazing. Uh, I long for the period where my children and grandchildren perhaps will be able to witness such trains in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, or in Kathmandu, India, and why not even across the Caribbean, right? Well, no, we're too small for these machines. But what I mean is that um, human beings deserve to use our creativity or engineering, our knowledge, to benefit each other, so that we can live comfortable lives. In my native Haiti, this week, people are lamenting the fact that the U.S. armed and protected terrorists, Vive Nassau, have decided to burn to the ground a landmark that a lot of us know and cherish, the Olofsson Hotel in Carrefourfeuille. you know um but as we saw all of these comments, many of us were saying, especially that the owner of the hotel is a popular musician, a couple of popular musicians, like the husband and wife who had the band Ram. And so, of course, a lot of sympathies outflowing for them and all of the people who've known the Olofsson and enjoyed some evenings of great culture, music at the hotel. However, and Richard himself, the hotel owner, Richard Morse, I saw a statement from him saying, like, he doesn't allow himself to bring the importance of the hotel higher than uh, all of these other landmarks that have been burnt in the past few months, uh, and human lives taken by these U.S. armed terrorists. Okay. And so, yes, we need to think about all of us coming out winning against the terrorist, all of us, not just some of us, but all of us. And in order to achieve that, we need to show empathy with those who are not celebrities, as well as those who are celebrities, because tout moun se moun. Fami yo, c'est ça que m'te genyen pour m'te partager avec nous aujourd'hui. That's all I had to share with you. I remind those of you who are fluent in Haitian Creole that we have a regular program each Sunday called Cause Nef Tan Cause Frais. And that program, we invite you to connect every Sunday at noon. We have a special guest and really some very interesting folks who are some of them living in Haiti, others outside of the country, but sons and daughters of Haiti are doing amazing work. And I really invite you to connect every Sunday at noon, Cause Nefta Cause Frais. And if you have not yet done so, please subscribe to this channel and help us spread the word and help it move to places where my reach is not yet present, but thanks to your help, we might be able to reach there as well. So do not hesitate to support as you can. I mentioned our website, jafrikaiti.com, or godisnotwhite.com. It's the same website where you can find some information. So this was it for tonight. We must address reality and leave imaginary friends or foes, gods or devils alone. Leave them alone. Okay, let's deal with reality. We have plenty of reality to address, and yes, together we can address these realities satisfactorily. I trust in the goodness, the basic goodness of humans. On July the 11th, 1825, the French signed this so-called accord, or the ransom, to destroy the Haitian economy. Okay, they were in the Port-au-Prince harbor on July the 3rd, putting pressure, and finally on July the 11th, they managed to get it done. And so I leave you with the restitution jingle.
Réparation, restitution à demander. Célébration, ils sont cadrés l'indépendance. Et c'est humiliant.